Welcome friends. What is the difference between a botanical and a pharmaceutical? A botanical is also called herb in common usage. Herb in America we pronounce it as herb, as if H is silent, like ERB, herb. Whereas in India, we pronounce the H is strong, herb, HERB, herb. Both are same. It's just a matter of how you pronounce it. So, difference between herbs and pharmaceuticals, or botanicals and pharmaceuticals. The crux of the discussion or the topic is what is called an active ingredient. If you extract one active ingredient from a plant or a plant part, or if you can synthesize one active ingredient and put it in the form of a pill or an injection or a liquid or a powder or a capsule or what have you, that is pharmaceutical. One active ingredient for one or more particular diseases or indications, that is pharmaceuticals. In herbs or botanicals, you are not isolating or extracting one particular ingredient, but you are extracting multiple active ingredients, because the belief is that, or in fact it has been proven that the hypothesis is that active ingredients work better in their innate natural form, because sometimes one active ingredient works synergistically with other active ingredients in its natural form. For example, you take tea. Tea is a botanical. We may think that it is just a morning drink that or afternoon drink, but it is actually considered a botanical. It is an herb. It is an herb. You take tea leaves, and of course there is a process how you get the tea leaves dried up and get into your counter, into your kitchen. Is you get the dried up tea leaves and you use a particular extraction technique called boiling in hot water. When you use hot water to extract ingredients from the tea called cacticin, or whatever active ingredient that particular tea leaves has, you get that what we call infusion. It's called infusion. It's actually a technical term called infusion when you use tea or any leaves and boil them, or when you use that particular extraction method. You can use multiple over a period of time, humans have discovered various extraction techniques from the plant parts. You can use glycerin to extract. You can use alcohol or a combination of glycerin alcohol, and even that you can use different concentrations of alcohol versus glycerin ratio. You can use, even in boiling, you can bring it to different boiling points and you can get different extractions. So over time, humans have discovered various techniques to extract active ingredients or extract chemicals from within the plants or plant products or plant parts. This becomes herb. So you can use whole plant or a whole plant part like leaves or roots, or you can use extraction techniques to obtain active ingredients from them. This science or this method is herbal technique. These are herbs. But for example, it becomes easier if we use example. Take the example of aspirin, the drug pretty much everybody in this world knows about. Aspirin, the active ingredient of aspirin is acetyl salicylic acid. This was obtained for hundreds or thousands of years. This was obtained from the bark of a particular tree called willow tree. I'm not sure if this willow tree is the same as the willow tree the willow tree they used to make cricket bats. So this willow tree, the bark of the willow tree contains multiple hundreds and thousands of active constituents, but one particular one is salicylin. So a company called Bayer Pharmaceuticals extracted this and used it and discovered that this salicylate can be used to prevent strokes or to prevent heart attacks, and so it is used for the prevention of that. And eventually they synthesized in the laboratory this active ingredient, which is the acetyl salicylic acid, and in the form of and used in the form of pills or tablets or capsules. So this is pharmaceuticals. When it comes to herbs or botanicals, you don't use one active ingredient, but you use either a whole root or leaf or a stem or a flower or a dried or what have you, and they contain multiple active ingredients. Now, what's the fuss about, the difference between these two? If you are able to identify one molecule, it's easy to do experiments on it, because you can have it make it go through various lab experiments. You can give it to lab animals, mostly rats, or you can experiment on humans and understand how the drug travels within the body, what the drug does to you, also called pharmacodynamics, or what the body does to the drug, called pharmacokinetics. So how the body changes according to the drug, or how the drug changes inside our body. So you can study all these if it's single active ingredient. But if it's multiple active ingredients within that product, in the herb or in the botanical or in the herb, it becomes pretty much impossible to study multiple active ingredients and what they do, because when they are in their native form, whether it's in a leaf or a root or a stem or a flower or a dried leaf, these multiple active ingredients, multiple constituents work synergistically and do their provide their benefits or the side effects. So it becomes extremely difficult. So that is why you will see that, for example, take the case of Ashwagandha. It is a botanical from Ayurvedic medicine. It is used for multiple purposes. It is a single herb used for multiple purposes. And at the same time, in botanicals, you can use a combination of herbs. One good example would be Triphala. Triphala is 3 different plants or plant parts used as one drug under the name Triphala, and it has multiple indications because it has multiple active ingredients working synergistically. So that is the benefit, you can use it, but the downside is, of course, you cannot do experiments because it's multiple drugs. And another benefit to herbs is that because their active ingredients are not isolated, extracted using solvents, their toxicity is low. Toxicity is there, but it is low. Whereas if you isolate one active ingredient and use it in a concentrated form, in the form of a tablet injection or a capsule or a powder, its toxicity goes up because it's one active ingredient in a highly concentrated form. So that is one side. But you do experiments, you figure out what is the right dosage, what is the toxic dosage, you figure out all of that, and you go through various experiments, and you finally get approved, and you continue to improvise, or you continue to improve the dosage and duration or a combination of the drug in successive experiments. That is pharmaceuticals. So it is important that we understand the difference between botanicals and pharmaceuticals, because that is once a patient asked me, why can't they put these herbs in a capsule and give it to us? Because it's so much more easier to swallow a capsule at a particular time rather than taking these herbs 5 times a day or 3 months at a time. That is why many Ayurvedic or Chinese herbal medicine experts use these drugs for many days at a time to get a desired effect because it's in minute quantities. The active ingredient is in minute quantities. So there is a desire in general population to have these herbal formulations in a capsule format or a tablet or a pill format so that it is easier to administer. But as you know, they are not one active ingredient, they are multiple active ingredients, and it's difficult to do experiments on them over a series of iterations, trial and errors over hundreds of thousands of years. The traditional healers have discovered certain drugs work for certain conditions and they have been traditionally using it. But when it comes to pharmaceuticals, it has to go through rigorous scientific or laboratory experiments because it is one active ingredient, high toxicity, and you have to use it very carefully. So hope you understood the difference between the pharmaceuticals and the botanicals, which is finally comes to the active ingredient, that is the crux of the discussion. So it's important we understand because we got to be careful what we put into our body because these are all chemicals that interact with our biological functioning and interacts with other drugs that we take. A drug is basically a molecule that interacts and changes our biological functioning. So if we are not careful what we put in, either in the form of herbs or botanicals or the pharmaceuticals, then we see not just the desired effect but the side effects of it.